We are pessimistic, negative Nancys that have not much to talk about, and I'll explain why after the intro. The top rights for Shopify Rebellion, he is Harstem. Get it, Harstem.
Get it. His opponent in the bottom left, the mysterious figure known only as MaxPax.
Harstem's being cheeky.
Ooh, see, this is what I wanted to see. This is what I like to see.
Yeah.
If you've watched MaxPax's games in this tournament, the only thing that he's really lost to for these mirrors has been the cheesy, been the little slice of cheddar builds. But we say all of that, it looks like it's just a regular probe scout. Oh no, he has a forge. Wait,
I'm not. He has a forge.
I forgot to do the only thing casters are good at and open the production tab. This is exciting.
I know, right? Yeah, so I'll have to hold off on explaining why this is really almost a non-issue PvP, because this is an issue. If this works, Harstem has already done more than he's done against MaxPax in the last 5 series they've played, which is actually take a map. So let's see. Let us watch it and see if it works out. Already kind of failing, though. The probe in the high ground could have easily been mineral walks, but he also had to pay attention to the low ground probe. So now you don't have the backup, right? That's not so good. And this one, I mean, it might get the cannons up on the high ground. It probably will. But then the Zealot is on the way. It's going to be coming from an awkward angle. So we'll see. MaxPax is definitely familiar with this scenario. There have been guys who have tried to cannon rush him on typically low ground pylon maps.
Yeah, this is just a very strange situation. MaxPax gets the pylon on the other side, but like the cannon on the low ground itself secures part of the ramp. The cannon on the high ground can secure the ramp. That he's not in. That top one is in range of the Nexus, but he's not in range of like where this gateway is. So the probe is working on the pylon. I guess my expertise in cannon rushing isn't entirely there, because he's just going to build the cybernetics core and a defensive cannon back home. Harstem is already thinking about the next phase of this, but just forcing this ridiculous response, occupying his base, and making life a nightmare for MaxPax. I wasn't sure if we were going like full print F and like 7 photon cannons in his base level, but well, MaxPax is also taking Harstem's third as
yes, he is. This is,
oh my goodness.
I would say this isn't even any longer like, well, obviously we have these situations so rarely. It's still a very funny, weird game. But I would say of the games that get to this point, this actually is not that surprising of a reaction anymore. This has been Protos's kind of response. If everything else goes poorly, right? If they can't actually stop the cannon rush, then this is not unfamiliar territory. Getting into the proxy Stargate and going for a Nexus, basically just letting your probes mine, not bothering to try and like last ditch effort tear down the cannon. Sorry, so you can get the Nexus up and then recall your probes, and then the game reverts. It's weird.
Yeah, this is just absolute. This is just chaos. Okay, so he was able to get enough gas for 2 stalkers, but without an assimilator that he can mine from, there's not much else to go off of. So the Void Ray is going to try to target down the shield battery first, after which it will be able to pretty easily take on just a stalker. And I mean, there are going to be more Void Rays, so Harstem brings the other stalker back up into the main base, just trying to retake the gas geysers, but he literally cannot build anti-air without gas. This is one of those things that wasn't really a problem since like Wings of Liberty, but now we finally get to see it play out with the cannon rush. It's like, if you don't have gas, you can only build Zealots. Protoss is weird like that.
Remember when they changed the assimilator HP because tanks would kill the gases on some of those Wings of Liberty maps? That was fun times. I think
my favorite bug of all time in StarCraft was you could start and cancel a refinery in one frame with an SCV and just get blocked inside, and they couldn't kill you because they had no range.
I remember that.
Yeah.
Good stuff. Not existing here, of course, but the idea is somewhat similar, which is that going after the gas was actually kind of a problem, limiting Harstem's response to, pure stalkers, if that. And then certainly not his own higher technology response, Twilight Council, Robo, Stargate, whatever. Probably not Robo, but you get my point. So fortunately, shield batteries do not cost gas, and that's what we're at. It's just build a bunch of shield batteries.
People have many things to say about the shield battery. I will say this is the intended purpose, is to try and limit some of the volatility at the start of these matches, but it's just been so difficult because of where these geysers are. It's a hop, skip, and a jump for the Void Rays, and honestly, I don't know what happens if this somehow goes really long. I mean, MaxPax, this is his only base, is at Harstem's base. So I don't even think that potential is on the table. He's going to overcharge again. Prismatic alignment to counter that and continuing to go after the assimilators. But it's just so tough because Harstem's reinforcement capabilities just aren't there. GG, MaxPax takes game number 1.
Yeah,
and
GG.
that's so painful because he had just enough gas to get the 2 stalkers. And if he was able to just continuously build them nonstop, you feel like maybe he could snowball. But he couldn't even get Warp Gate because he didn't have enough gas for that either. So really good understanding of just that situation by MaxPax to recognize it and say, yeah, you probably don't have much gas. If I just throw everything at this, it's okay if you get the Adept or the Zealot, whatever. You're just going to be stuck against the Void Rays. And he reacted so fast to that, the probe getting out, the probe being out, instrumental in that game.
I really think that it's a difficult thing to actually win with nowadays, the cannon rush. I mean, obviously it still happens, but especially MaxPax, because MaxPax is, actually one of the most foolproof Protoss players out there. I know sometimes we go overboard, and before Twitch chats like stop talking about MaxPax, but there's a reason that he got such the notoriety he did in Protoss versus Protoss. He would play it a ton because he's a European Protoss, okay? But that doesn't differentiate him from other Protosses in Europe. But there it is. There's a lot of practice there. Then he was very clear, if you watched enough of his games, that he was digesting the information like one step at a time. He perfects second by second. So when something threw him off, he'd be like, well, I did perfectly up till that point. Now I'm going to make sure to scout over to the left side. And so he would remain, even according to other professionals, the best defender Protoss, right? He would always get that one get expand up. Another Protoss would be like, I copy him and I don't understand. I still lose. So what I'm trying to say is that even though a cannon rush looks like kind of a new idea, and it looks like it's going to throw a bunch of wrenches into the mix so that, no one could possibly perfect the defense, MaxPax is kind of the guy that if you were going to guess someone perfected the defense, it'd be him, right? So I don't want to say he's utterly perfect and he's ever going to lose that type of stuff, but he would be familiar with it as seen in that first game.
Yeah, as we get into this one, and I'll have a little tinfoil for you in a second, Zombie Grub, but we'll introduce the players. In the top right, representing Shopify Rebellion, he is Harstem.
In the bottom left, for Storm Gaming, he is MaxPax.
But here's your Halloween twist then. MaxPax is actually just a rogue fork of Alpha Star that just never left. That's why he never left. He can't we haven't seen it, we haven't known because he's just a ghost in the machine. Just shows up for tournaments, kills people, and then disappears into the ether.
Yeah.
It's like trying to catch smoke with your bare hands.
I want to say that was one of the first wild conspiracy theories people had about MaxPax, but then everyone loved the Prince of Denmark so much better. So
yeah, and then they took away like their royalty, right? Wasn't that news in the last week? So
yes,
pretty impressive despite that huge personal loss. MaxPax still showing up. Really shows the level of professionalism at play in this tournament. It's got to come from somewhere, right? So we'd love to see it. And he's almost going to scout this proxy pylon too. He's very close by, but not quite there. I don't think that watchtower would reveal it, maybe, but he didn't go to it, so it doesn't matter. Proxy Robo from Harstem.
Right. I'm going to go ahead and assume that the Robo is out of the Xel'Naga watchtower, though we've seen pros make that mistake. Yeah, MaxPax gave it the old college try in actually finding the proxy, which he knew was on the field because he had one scouting probe in the main and then a second scouting probe, right? Which he does do. Some of the Protoss might say that's like unideal, just use the original probe to go scouting, but on the off chance he figures it out, it really does help him defend, even if he doesn't know about it ASAP. The difference between a proxy Stargate, proxy Robo, right? Huge difference. So he does eventually find it with the main base probe that came back, and now he can adjust mentally to it. He can't really adjust so much the things that have already happened, right? Like he is going for Stargate defense, but mentally he can prepare for it. Now grabbing those shield batteries on the front line.
Yeah.
Oh, hello.
Is that? Oh, yo, what's up? Yeah. I told you, Zombie Grub. It's the first day I put gel in my hair for an online StarCraft show, and they can't get enough of it. Some guy even thinks I dyed it. That's how good it looks. Very impressive. Thank you.
Oh, you made it.
I say kudos to my mama for those jeans. My hair is fantastic. Thank you very much. Void Ray being built by MaxPax as the Adepts arrive in the main. And I mean, 2 Adepts could do a lot of damage to the probes. It's not necessarily that deliver the killing strike type setup, but it can vary MaxPax economically if he takes too much from it. Now, let's not forget he does have his natural expansion. So for MaxPax, it's not as much like, oh, don't lose a couple probes. It's don't just die to whatever the follow-up is, because he's got a lot of money. And we know that Harstem, he walled himself inside of his main base. And MaxPax has a probe there that can see that. So he knows the mission objective is just survive.
That is exactly right. There's still an weird PvP out there where Harstem does just enough damage, but usually it is do or die based on the break of the natural. So already MaxPax trying to take into account all the options. So shield battery in the main as well as shield batteries in the natural, but very much so MaxPax's PvP style was nerfed. I mean, I don't think you can really disagree with that, with the Void Ray getting nothing but nerfed. Oh, okay, I thought he was tapping out. But that doesn't mean that he is necessarily just bound to lose nowadays, right? I feel like it went from some weirdly absurd high win rate of like 80% when he does this to at like 60%, like, which is still that it works a lot for MaxPax.
Yeah, and he has lost to the big stalker with a prism or just nothing but stalkers. That was, in that series against Goblin, it was just straight up 4-gate though. And I think that might be the difference when you're trying to cheese MaxPax down. I think the more you do, I think less is more. Maybe just I'll take the inverse of that, because he had like an underestimation where the Void Rays were willing to kind of push the ramp a little bit, and then he would kind of get caught. The stalkers would all go up and get that single target focus fire and just burst the Void Rays down. But MaxPax, this time around, he's not taking as many chances. We got 3 shield batteries that are done. Of course, he has a battery already in the main base. And now the Void Rays see the Adepts trying to get elevated inside, and he will shut that down too. And Harstem's going to warp a stalker and back home to deal with the probe that is nibbling away at his gateway.
That was really dangerous there from MaxPax. I don't know if he just knows this build so well that he knew Blink wasn't going to be done till maybe closer to 5:30 than 5. But those Void Rays, I mean, that would have been a bait for sure. But they didn't. I mean, Blink wasn't done. So Void Ray number 4 will join in, and that's a pretty scary number, especially because none of them have been injured so far. I feel like you usually expect one of them to be like half health, one shot by still a lower number of stalkers. In this case, all the stalkers firing at once is already somewhat unlikely just with the high ground. So it's not being one shot even if there was enough stalkers. And like I said, they're all healthy. Now one is injured, but only slightly.
Yeah, and it does get to this point where the shield batteries, you're just trying to bypass them by being like, you don't have enough units on the ground. So oftentimes I feel like the solution isn't even the Void Rays just trying to get to Immortals or something, because this type of poking is going to be so annoying, and everything he kills is worth getting, because Cybernetics Core shuts down any other tech options, shuts down building stalkers and sentries, and obviously that Stargate is the source of power for the Void Rays if he can get enough. But that's what hurts. Void Rays are damage over time units. They don't have that huge burst. Are they strong? Yes, but the stalkers, if he gets enough of them, and if he can just get close enough to shoot, he'll be able to knock them down one by one. So you need to, in that time, be able to kill everything if you're MaxPax. This is a very scary spot to be in. Even with the 2-base economy, this is a crazy amount of stalkers out of Harstem.
Yeah, absolutely. Kind of bold going for an Oracle here. And, that's something that Harstem can also see, of course, but then also, are you actually going to keep that Stargate alive? If the Stargate dies, there are no other tech options available. I actually say that MaxPax, I want to say, usually goes faster into this robo, but perhaps something in the winds, right, told him that wasn't possible. But now, as I said, Stargate goes down, no more possibility for Void Rays. Initially, though, targeting on the Void Rays. 2 of them went down. Stargate still lives, very temporarily, however.
And that's what makes it so tough, because the easiest thing to reinforce with, and now the only thing that they could reinforce with for MaxPax, is just stalkers, and he doesn't have enough of them. The probes are going to get pulled. Now the shield batteries are able to do their thing with the overcharge that will get targeted by Harstem, and he's just going to go in. Now he hits the Nexus with the first shot, so whiffs on a little bit of the damage, but there's just not enough meat on the bone for MaxPax. This unit count difference is becoming a bit astronomical.
Yeah, yep, Harstem is going to successfully break MaxPax. Really nicely done by Harstem. I think he really made MaxPax think a lot more about how he was supposed to defend, right? Just the Adepts they lasted almost the entire game, and they were constantly going and shading in multiple locations, main base, natural, sometimes completing their shade, other times not completing their shade, obviously threatening the high ground vision so that the Warp Prism didn't have to be in range of the high ground. So you still have the Adepts in the shade. Everything combined so that MaxPax really had to consider literally every single option possible, from all the mobility, from the Adept shades to the Blink Stalkers to the Warp Prism picking up and stuff, that it was really, I don't know how MaxPax does that better, but I can assure you that he did. He saw something there and he was like, okay, I should have done X instead of Y. And perhaps that would have been investing into a faster robo. An Immortal included in the mix when Harstem pulls the trigger in that natural. I don't know if it would have made a difference, but it would have been big.
I think that what we're learning, because this is not an anomaly of a game. This is something that we've seen quite a few times this season, partially because we've just had a ridiculous number of PvPs, but there have been so many of these games where one player is defending with the Stargate on 2 bases, going Void Rays, and we're talking about the economy, we're talking about how they have all this money to do stuff, but all that money goes into the Void Rays, and the Void Rays never actually get to fight. They poke, but even versus Armored, it's like, oh, they do 12 damage every 0.2 seconds, but they only get to attack once. So like they kind of tickle the Stalkers blink back, and then they do that big shot, and 7 of them just one shot of Void Ray, and you're like, well, what went wrong? And I think Zombie Grub, it's got to be that you need to not rely on the Void Rays entirely as the defense. They are like that stopgap. You plug it temporarily, then you go get some new drywall, right? That's got to be your robotics facility. You have going into Immortals or something, because it's just hard. You're not going to outproduce him on Stalkers. He's all-inning you. He's got a ton of Stalkers. It's the only thing he's building, and he has Blink. But you're just building regular old boring Stalkers with no frills. You can't even spring for the sports package. You don't even have a Bluetooth player. It's horrible.
Nicely said. Perfect analogy. Yeah, it is. And I also think that perhaps MaxPax maybe also changed up his response a little bit by adding in so many regular gateway units. But yeah, let's dive into game number 3. Top right for Shopify, he is Harstem.
And his opponent, spawning in the northwest position, representing Psystorm Gaming, he is MaxPax.
Really important victory, that one. Obviously taking a step forward to actually taking this best of 3, which Harstem literally needs to do to stay alive in this group, but also a confidence booster leading into game 3. I mentioned it, but maybe you guys missed it. Harstem has not actually won a map against MaxPax in their last 4 series, one of which was a best of 5. And then before that, there was 1 map taken, and then another line of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 series without taking a map. When's the last time Harstem won against MaxPax, you ask? It was indeed a year and 7 months ago. And well, it was a 3-0, so that was something. I think they were actually talking about it in the chat in game number 1. Harstem was like, do you remember that one Open Cup where I defeated you? And MaxPax said, I only remember the defeats. So yes, or something along those lines. So yeah, but the point is, it's a monumental task for Harstem, because even though it's PvP and anything can happen, guys, actually their history kind of proves that that's not the case. MaxPax is supposed to win.
Yeah, I do like that he is willing to play the really aggressive side, because that's where the only weakness has been. Even if you don't like to be, a quote unquote cheesy player, I'll quote the great handsome Kalaris and say, we may want to be reasonable men, but we live in a clown world, and sometimes we have to play by clown rules. So
was that about cryptocurrency?
Yeah. Well, I now extrapolate that to everything. I now extrapolate that comment to everything.
Amazing.
Kalaris really resonated me with that statement as he cried staring at some chart that I couldn't see on his phone. But here we go to that. We've got the gold base being taken by Harstem, and that is exactly what I'm talking about.
There you go. Yeah. Yes. But again, not the most uncommon thing in the world on PvP on Stargazers. MaxPax should absolutely be checking for this, and I believe that's exactly what the probe is going to do. If your opponent's not natural expanding, and even then, I feel like there's some weird things, right? So even if there was a pylon on the low ground for Harstem, MaxPax would be wary of it. So MaxPax is going to see it is second pylon in the main. He had a probe about to be sent down to the south side, But with seeing the pylon, he actually doesn't check the gold base. So this is kind of big. Like, he would have had such advanced notice. It would have been no big deal. Now, the gears only start to turn for that gold base eventually, you know, and he's going to over-defend, thinking it's a one-base thing, something. So it's not.
Yeah. I mean, there's big potential here. On the other side, it is still annoying because Harstem has a shield battery going up in his main base, which will help against a single Oracle. But I am wondering, I guess for MaxPax, it's like, how much can he afford to send across the map? And it's going to be the Void Ray. This makes me less confident in his ability to defend this.
Yeah, so I'm going to go ahead and say that last time MaxPax had someone to get gold base against someone was like, you know, weeks, months.
Yeah, 1995.
50, 100 games ago or something. Basically, I can almost assure you that it's happened, but if it hasn't happened recently, like, your first thought process is, right, I just died to some guy one base all-inning me. So that's what I need to think of first and foremost. And then you have the classic over-defending. He is losing by over-defending, misreading the situation.
Yeah, and those batteries are not so far forward that Harstem can't still kind of poke him from the front. And the Oracle is actually going to go for the stasis trap, recognizing that shield battery would make things a little bit complicated, so probes have to get moved around. But Harstem even building a shield battery at the gold, so he's thinking a little bit even further down the line. Despite the fact that base being scouted is not really a factor, the Oracle could still just randomly fly by it. So don't hate that. Use that money. And he's just going to try and overwhelm him, I guess, and kill him with Stalkers. Probably, yep, there you go, Twilight Council. So I'm going to assume Blink next. Makes sense with this?
Yeah, absolutely. The gears have turned, by the way. MaxPax is like, okay, hold on. There's too many signs pointing to this not actually being an all-in. Because even initially, you get in the main base, and you don't see anything suspicious. That doesn't mean they haven't proxied something. So it really did. You had to cross off the most important... Oh, my God, that was quite the stasis trap at the gold base, by the way, guys. You have to cross off the biggest T, right? Like, you gotta do the thing that's the most, it's gonna kill you the most immediately, which is a one base attack. But then eventually you gotta dot that macro eye. And he did eventually do that, and the stasis trap has helped tremendously. But it's still kind of more of an awkward game than perhaps MaxPax was hoping for. Let's see if he can use the things he has built to turn into a less awkward game.
Yeah. And it's weird because it puts the pressure on MaxPax now because he's shifting gears from that fully defensive spot, and eventually, I mean, because Blink is still not that close to being finished and it's researching at this base, MaxPax has the benefit of Harstem can't retreat from his position because he would lose way too much, and he's got a lot of units to fight with. A lot of those Stalkers are just kind of AFK.
Yeah, that was super weird, right? Like, he didn't micro, he didn't overcharge. Well, maybe he didn't have energy to overcharge, but still. That might be, I don't know, game ending because there's no reinforcements yet, but gosh, that was a lot to lose for Harstem.
Yeah, this is a very awkward spot to be in. Again, he can't give up Blink and everything at this gold because then back home, he's just got scraps. There's nothing there to follow up on. So another Warpin is going to come through. The battery does not have the overcharge, and the Void Rays are still there doing their thing. Even if you could kill the Stalkers, it wouldn't be enough. GG, MaxPax takes the 2-1.